is very caring, loving. Her own mind, of course, is very sharp, and but she gives out 110% for anything. She has done a great job in her community life. She worked shoulder to shoulder with me when we started families as support teams. For the last several months, I am having a bit of health challenge. But who is there for me? She. Well, we have similar interests, and that's the domain of spirituality, to listen to good words from Swamis or read, or to be in satsang.
You're watching Women in Focus. Every week we interview a woman who makes difference in the lives of many. And today's woman certainly has made a difference in the lives of many people. She's a community worker, and she has been in Canada for many years, has helped many families, has started innovative organizations that have not only helped individuals but have helped families. Our woman in focus today is Jyan Nath. I would like you to meet her. Jyanji, you're most welcome in our program.
Thank you, Smaji.
Your work in Vancouver is outstanding. You've received many awards for that. Let's talk a little bit about your current work that you just recently finished doing, which was FAST.
First, we formed the society way back in 1990.
That's right.
With the thought to prevent problems from happening in the families.
Right.
At that time, the focus of all the societies was on crisis intervention.
That's right.
But as teachers, we felt, my husband and I, that is, we felt that we could help in developing programs that would prevent or at least do early intervention in catching the problems that are somewhat developmental and somewhat cultural, somewhat environmental. So we were hoping to do programs with families.
Right. Watching too many people who were having problems within the household?
Naturally, because as teachers, I am an elementary school teacher and my husband was a high school teacher. So we could sort of monitor from grade 1 to grade 12.
Yes.
And what we were seeing that even the smart children would lose their grades once there was family problems. If there was quarrels at home, or there was a death in the family, if there was a new member coming into the family, supposing from different parts of the world. So there was so much adjustment going on in the families that the students would not be able to cope, and their grades would go down. Especially with the teenagers, when their hormones begin to work also.
That's right.
So with peer pressure, and then another thing happens at that point is that the children are beginning to get acquainted with Canadian culture.
That's right.
And the parents who are housebound, they are not making that same transition.
No.
So there's a communication gap, the cultural gap.
Now, you and Mr. Nath both have worked within the communities, our community, a lot, and you've seen how children there can be a generation gap. There can be a gap between the parents and children. You brought up a very good point that if the parents are staying at home and the kids go out, both of them are not moving in the same direction.
They're not. Yes, in our own community, when we came here 40 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So there were very few Indians here at that time. And there was the Punjabi group, and they had their Gurdwara. But when we came, we started a lot of things like doing the Havans, the birth rituals and weddings and funeral rites, and then we went on to establish the current temple with a group of people who were also interested in doing that. My husband was quite active in starting the India Club, which is promoting the students today so much, it's
Academics.
academics, and that's what we need. Then we went on to do fast society.
Right.
Also we did national work with the National Indo-Canadian Council and teachers organizations.
That's right.
So as part of that, we supported each other in going to the mainstream. We didn't want to just be in our own community. We wanted to know what is happening in the mainstream.
And also you wanted to promote our culture and the understanding of our culture in the mainstream communities as well.
Very much so. We did our part in bringing our culture.
Yeah.
First of all, I had to learn to be able to communicate.
Right.
Because it's one thing to be in your own culture, but it is totally another thing to try and communicate it to other people.
That's right.
So I began to take courses at university and begin to realize more academically what our temples represent. What is our religion? We say the Vedas. I mean, what are the Vedas? And be able to develop an understanding that you can take
Yes.
to the mainstream people and to our own people. Our own people also need to understand, just as I did,
Right.
to understand what the scriptures are all about. What is Ramayana? What is Mahabharata? It's not enough just to recite, but what do they say? So once we began to understand, I was able to take it into the schools through Multicultural Week.
Right.
Do in a larger way,
Right.
and not only celebrate our own culture, but to honor the Canadian culture too.
Now you must have been in this field for many years. I mean, did you come to Canada as teachers?
We both were teachers when we came here, and that's how we came actually. When in 1962 there was a worldwide shortage of teachers,
And so you came
and
from
Canada
India.
was really needing teachers. So here were two teachers. So my husband got a job while he was still in Fiji,
Right.
and he came to a job, 3 kids alone and a job.
I want to talk to you about how you came to Canada and your life prior to coming to Canada, but we'll take a short commercial break and we'll be back. We are talking to Jyan Nath, who is our Woman in Focus today. We'll be back, don't go away. Welcome back to Women in Focus. Our Woman in Focus today is a very dynamic woman. Her name is Jyan Nath. We were talking to her about her teaching, her involvement with the community. Janji, you mentioned to me that you came from Fiji. Were you born in Fiji?
Yes, I was born in Fiji, and first part of my education was in Fiji also. But Fiji didn't have university at the time. So when I came to Canada, I only had senior Cambridge and the teacher training.
I see.
Yes, and but I had an advantage because my parents were very involved, educators. And in the time of war, when we couldn't get textbooks, so my father set about and wrote the textbooks for the first 6 grades.
Oh, really?
And and he was very much involved in the community, in the whole community. My mother was too. So that made us very aware of our responsibility to the community.
So how many siblings are you?
I have 3 sisters now, and I lost a brother and a sister.
And so did you meet Gyanji in Fiji?
Yes, he came to teach out in Fiji, so that's where we met. But again, we have an advantage there because my sister is married to his brother, and they live in India. So, that's how he had come to take a job up.
So was it an arranged marriage then?
Yes, it is. I mean, it's introduced certainly.
Right. So then you met him, and were you allowed to say yes or no? I mean, if you didn't want to marry him, you could say no.
Yes, I could have.
But you liked him.
Circumstances were different for us because my father had just died in a plane crash, and it was really traumatic time at that time. And it sort of, you didn't choose what you wanted to do. You sort of get guided by your mother to do what you and that's okay. We've been married for 48 years.
Oh, wow. Now, how many children do you have?
I have 3, a boy and 2 girls. My 2 girls are teachers, and my son is in the Air Force.
Yes. And all of them live here in Canada?
Yes.
So then, how old were they when you moved to Canada?
The youngest was 18 months old and the oldest was 6. The middle one was 4. They were pretty young at the time and had to make big adjustments to this country.
So when you came here, did you get a job right away?
My husband had a job to come to. So then we settled in Nelson. We were the only Indians there when we arrived. Another couple arrived soon after that.
Right.
But people didn't know what East Indians were, and we didn't know what East Indians were either. We were Indians, right, until we went to Nelson.
Right.
Then you become East. And we had nobody else there to talk with or share ideas with.
Right.
However, it's the people of Nelson did a great job. They made us feel at home.
Yeah, so your kids must have been brought up totally Canadian way of life, or did you teach them the Aarti and the Puja and Havan?
Since we were already acquainted with that, both of us were, and it was our practice to do Havan at home on birthdays and celebrate all the Diwali and Holi, we maintained that.
I see.
Even though there were just the two of us doing Havans and things, but we maintained that throughout our stay in Nelson. And then when we came to Vancouver, in fact, my husband started doing some of these rituals for other families, and I was very much involved in that. So as the children were growing up, we introduced them to this literature and the stories from what we call Panchtantra,
yes,
which are like fables,
yes,
stories from Hitopadesh, which have morals,
right,
stories from the Ramayana,
yes,
Mahabharata. So they grew up knowing a lot of those things.
So their bringing up by you, because you were at home and also used to work, must have been very solid, because you're a person of a lot of principles and values. I know that.
But Sushmaji, that didn't prevent us from having problems with our teenagers. We had big time problems. Fortunately, at that time, we didn't have troubles like drugs and too much of alcohol and things like that. But conflicts, yes. Because they were beginning to move a lot more in the Canadian teenage groups. We were not familiar with a lot of stuff, even though we were teachers. And that is why we feel that it is very important for us to act as bridge between the two cultures.
Right.
And but anyway, let go and let God. And
it worked out okay.
That worked out okay, and they're happily married. To our surprise, they all chose Indian people as their spouses.
Right.
And
to your surprise, why do you say that?
To us, because there were so few Indians at the time.
That's right.
There were no temples.
Yes.
There was no way that you could really communicate what cultural things are about. You're promoting something, but that wasn't mainstream. They would go in other people's homes and not see what they would eat at home.
Yes.
And our language. Very few people spoke Hindi. They spoke Punjabi mostly. So in spite of all that, they've grown up to respect their own culture and to accommodate the Canadian culture too.
And how have they been bringing up their children? Do you have a hand in that at all?
I'm very much involved with my grandchildren. I'm very thankful for that my children honor me that way. And the spouses, my two sons-in-laws and my daughter-in-law, they are first generation immigrants here.
Right.
So they bring a lot of culture from India.
Which is fantastic in a way, isn't it?
It is fantastic, but they have accommodated. I don't want to say that they are one-sided, because they are very well adapted to both sides of the culture. They're very international in their diet. I like that very much. And our grandchildren all speak their own language to some degrees. They do their own prayers, and beginning to have some understanding, because they're little yet.
Yes.
The oldest grandchild is only 13.
Okay.
So it's a good time for them to get acquainted.
I want to talk to you about the work that you have done in Canada, apart from whatever we talked in the beginning of the program. But there are a lot of things that you believe in, and I want to talk to you about belief and spirituality, because that's a great part of your life.
Yes, very much. One of the things I very strongly believe is that the children should be encouraged.
Yes.
They should be encouraged to reach their level of excellence, however little it may be. When I taught mentally handicapped children, emotionally disturbed, even if it was mopping the table or making a snack plate, it had to be excellent, and they could learn that.
Yes, certainly.
So that as the children are more intelligent, it's they should work for excellence.
Right.
Parents need to do that. We need to believe in that.
We'll talk about that after this short commercial break. Don't go away. You're watching Women in Focus. Welcome back to Women in Focus. Our Women in Focus today is Jyan Nath, a teacher by profession, an activist, a social worker, has won many awards for her community work. Janji, you were talking about, we were talking a little bit about children and the upbringing and, you know, your beliefs as to how they should be an integral part of a community from their very childhood. Now, through FAST, you've tried to do a lot of that. You currently are doing some camps with kids.
Yes. I started teaching Hindi as part of Ganesh School of Hindi at Vishwa Hindu Parishad.
Right.
And just by a stroke of luck, I have the senior class now, and they know their Hindi. So it was time to bring them into leadership.
Right.
Leadership and commitment to their community. It's working out very nicely because the senior students are now mentoring the little kids.
Oh, that's good.
They're learning how to teach. It's a lifelong skill.
Yes.
How to manage kids, how to practice the 5 principles that I talk about.
And they are?
Acceptance, accommodation, acknowledgement,
Right.
Appreciation,
Yes.
and adoration.
That's good.
And use that in their teaching the mentoring.
In the context.
In the context.
Yeah.
I use it. I demonstrate it. So if the children make a mistake,
Yeah.
accommodate that. Appreciate the effort.
Yeah.
Admire it. Children are to be adored. Then they work. Then they thrive. The smile on their faces is different.
Yes.
Instead of having fun temporarily,
Yes.
they have joyfulness of their heart, which is a permanent thing,
Yeah,
right?
forever.
Forever. The joyfulness. I work for joyfulness.
Now, Janji, you're a very spiritual person. You mentioned that when there was nobody doing the Havan and all that, you and Gyanji did all that. What does religion mean to you? What is the place of religion in your life and spirituality? They're 2 different things.
They're 2 different things. I was just going to make that point. Now, religion is an organized way of teaching spirituality, and it's needed.
Yes.
You need to identify with a group. Religion allows you to do that. But spirituality is universal. It's unlimited. You physically you may get tired, but spiritually you have unlimited resources for anything. We just have to reach for it. We have to believe that whatever happens for a good reason.
Right.
If there are blocks, we can get past it. Look for resources. Believe in God. Believe in your scriptures, no matter what they are. Believe in humanity. We are here to accept, to belong to the country we live in, to the people we meet, and to have commitment. I'm not the kind of person who talks a lot about love. It's a very confusing concept. I don't understand it. But commitment, I understand.
Oh, that you made a faux pas there, you know. You believe in commitment, but you don't understand love.
But love, sometimes you fall in love one day and the next day they're having divorce. How come?
So that makes sense to me. So if you're committed to the person.
Yes, committed to the situation, to your country, your education, your spirits, you know, be committed to your family. Everything is not going right all the time.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay to be imperfect. It's all right, make mistakes. But you have to have commitment for growth, commitment to excellence, commitment to your spiritual being, knowing that this body is a temple in which resides your divinity. And if it resides in me and you, how can I disrespect you?
No, you can't.
Respect is very important.
Yeah. So respect for the human kind is what you're talking about.
Yes, in the camp we are teaching this to the children, the respect and to be helping each other to learn the scriptures, to respect the elders.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to learn from the elders.
Mm-hmm.
Respect the priest. Respect the temple. It's a place of worship.
Right.
Respect your schools.
Yeah.
So
Respect your fellow human beings.
respect your fellow human beings.
What about all the wars that are taking place in the world? Is there no
Well,
respect for one another?
That's, I don't know, but I think that's a struggle for power.
Yeah.
Power of one kind or another. As soon as there's a struggle for power, whether it is amongst the family members or the friends or a community, it doesn't balance anymore.
No.
God is supreme power,
Right.
and we should let it be there and work for everybody else. Work to support. Work to be in harmony.
Are you happy with your life?
I am.
Yeah.
I'm very contented, but that doesn't mean I don't want to learn anymore.
Right.
When I go to India, I put aside a bit of time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, to still learn.
Mm-hmm.
Learn the scriptures, learn more rituals, learn sanskaras, and come back rejuvenated.
One lifetime isn't enough to learn all this.
No, it isn't. I was the oldest student at a camp.
Uh-huh.
I went to, it's a Sanskrit, conversational Sanskrit camp.
Yes.
And that's the students who were very young asked me why I would want to be learning at my age.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important to keep the brain going. Unused brain goes stale.
That's the secret of your youth then.
Probably. Interest in the youth itself too. Respect the youth.
Yeah.
5 years from now I might be on the operating table,
Yes.
and one of these teenagers that we don't trust today
Right.
might be the surgeon. I've got to trust them today in order to trust them then, right?
True.
It's very important to trust our youth, which
Yeah.
I do. I respect my youth, and that's why the numbers are growing
Yes.
in the
In your
programs.
Yes.
And I believe I am a useful member of our Ganesh School of Hindi.
Right.
It's coming up very nicely there, and I'm enjoying being part of that community.
Right.
So,
In the coming years, Jyanji, where do you see yourself? Do you see continuing to work with the school and the society?
as long as I can, yes, that's my plan. That I continue working with the young people, giving them the skills that I know,
Yes.
I sharing with them,
Mhm.
and not only that, I learn from them too,
Mhm.
because they have the computer skills, they have the energy, and they teach me a lot. And I want to share things with our seniors,
Yes.
bring the seniors and the youth together through interviews, through writing stories. The seniors that live here today have wonderful stories to tell about
That's
their
right.
migration,
Yeah.
about their adjustment, about their home countries, and I want some of that recorded.
Well, it's even if you talked for another 2 hours, it wouldn't be enough. You have a lot to offer the community. You have a lot to offer the community at large, and we are very proud to know you as a member of our community. And it's been great interviewing you for Women in Focus.
Thank you, Sushmaji. It's been my pleasure.
Jyan Nath, who has been our Woman in Focus. Don't go away. We'll be right back.